Good job, Blair. Amazing. No, I thought.
Oh, that's not good.
Choke me.
Different role, I wasn't sure how to do it.
Oh. Did you see my new ring? That's from, it's called Moldavite. It's from Czechoslovakia. That's where I was just at.
Okay, I've never heard of Moldavite.
I hadn't either. That's the only place in the world. It is,
Is it considered a rare or is it? You know, that's 19.
All right, look at you.
it is, the
Should
only.
have one of
it was
those.
formed in a meteor.
Gavel.
Here.
I have a gavel.
Yeah.
Could never be
It's on
used in for
Well,
evidence.
I've got one from Kiwanis.
Just that. Yeah, my husband's-
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. That was just what I needed.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for your patience online. We are a little bit late today.
Microphone, please.
Microphone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our legislative committee. We'd like to do a roll call for June 21st, 10 a.m. for the legislative committee.
Bates,
It's here.
Doherty,
Which is good or bad?
Molina. Molina present. Silva,
Silva's here.
Strathman,
Strathman here.
Gums,
Comes here.
Linder,
Linder here.
Tepe. Pirog. You have quorum in the room.
Thank you. Without objection, we're going to allow Mr. Doherty and additionally Ms. Silva to leave early for remote without objection. All right. For approved reasons, I might add. Can I have a motion for approval of the minutes for May 17, 2023?
Well, Mike, please.
Madam Chair, I move for unanimous consent of meetings from the minutes from the meeting from May 17th.
Very good. No objections? All right, minutes approved. Do we have anybody here from the public with comment? We do have one of our representatives here, but we're going to have him speak a little bit later. So thank you. Welcome. Representative Hanson is here. I do want to take 2 minutes. Many of us are from Aurora here, so we lost an icon in the city of Aurora with Alderman Shakita Hart Burns. She did pass away, and our thoughts and prayers are with her and her family. I've spoken to many of my colleagues, and it is an incredible loss. So I just want to recognize her with a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you. Today we have joining us, Illinois Association of County Board Members, and they're gonna, walk us through our legislative update. I was pleased that they accepted our invitation and they are online. So Kelly Murray is here as well as, I can't see that, her colleague. And I'm gonna open up the floor for them to, go ahead and give us a little update. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you, Michelle. Can you hear me okay?
Here you go. Fine. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to present to the Kane County Legislative Committee today. I do want to recognize joining me today will be Taylor Anderson. He is our lead legislative consultant at the state capitol, and we work together with our other legislative team members. So he will be joining us today. I do want to thank and recognize your chair as well, Ms. Parag, for working with us collaboratively in the past on legislative issues, and to recognize Michelle Gums and Myrna Molina as well, because they serve in the capacity of representing Kane County, not only on our legislative committee, but also on our executive committee. So we're very pleased to have your involvement with the state association. It's been very valuable to us here in the Springfield office. I want to also recognize Kane County for establishing a legislative committee, because that is very important. Not every county in the state has a legislative committee. And, you know, we always view our political system as sort of it's a representative democracy. And I think it's very important that every citizen that you represent as districts for you to be involved in the policymaking process, especially at the state level. So I just want to pat you on the back for having this committee and your commitment of time to policy, because it's very important in the state of Illinois. Just a little quick background before we get into the spring session bills and coming.
Kelly, before you continue, I do apologize, but you're really, really faint.
Okay,
Your volume.
let me see here if we can do anything. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to give you just a real quick background. We have a lot of new members just on the association itself. Just real quickly, we are kind of a unique organization. We have a lot of positive aspects within the County Board Association, and that our board of directors has equal representation. We are not, in other words, the counties are not divided by population on our board of directors. We understand that a lot of times, in other groups, you have this urban, suburban, and rural separation that takes place sometimes. And we don't do that with our association because we've set it up so every county has one vote on our board of directors, regardless of size or location, because we really, believe the diversity of the state of Illinois is important for all counties to be involved in, whether it's specific to your county or it's a statewide issue. So this has worked very well for us, and we're very proud of that we have over 90% of the counties in Illinois and almost well over 1,200 some county board members that participate with us on a regular basis. And we've kept that because I think of this equal voice at the table, and it's been very, very good for us to do that. We often recognize counties of similar size, they have unique issues, and you will be doing that as part of your business as a Kane County board member. But the majority of the legislative proposals that are introduced here in Springfield, they are all encompassing, and their impact is statewide. So separation at the table is not of value to any county official. So Illinois is very diverse, as you know. We are one of the states with some of the most populous counties. We have 102 counties, as you all know. Texas has 300 and some, but some states only have 12 counties. It's a little easier to get 12 counties to come to an agreement versus 102 counties. Illinois is also, as you know, diverse because we have the second largest county being Cook County, of course. And then we also, on the unique list every year, we have one of the poorest and smallest counties in the United States at the bottom of our state, which is Alexander County. So you kind of take that into perspective. You look at Cook County in the north and a 6-hour, 7-hour drive to the southern part of the state, and you have just the opposite. But yet those commissioners down there still have to deal with every single law that the state passes, similar to you guys do as a board as well. So that is why it's important, we think, for county board members across the state to understand the complexity of each of the areas of the state. And you guys have always done that very well. I think Kane County has an advantage because you're a populous county close to the metro region, but you also have a very vast population in rural areas, and you have a lot of farmland. So that brings you into those perspectives sometimes, which may be a little bit more of some of the rural downstate issues. So working with you guys has been a plus for us, because I think you have both that perspective going on with the representatives that you have with your citizens. So just quickly about the association, as I said, we were established around 1960, the longest running association in the state representing counties. We work as an independent voice. We do not have an umbrella organization. We represent county board members and commissioners. But we work very collaboratively with the county officials, the state umbrella. We work with the county clerk, state's attorney, circuit clerk, coroners, treasurers, you name it, we work with them. And we have good relationships with them. And I do want to give a little shout out to Mark Armstrong, your Chief County Assessment Officer, because he chairs that legislative committee for the other county officials. So we do work with Mark on a regular basis, and Taylor and I have always been very appreciative of his input into the agenda as we work through issues here at the state capitol. With the association, not only, advocacy, lobbying probably is one of our biggest priorities and one of our biggest services to the counties, but equally is education. We do a lot throughout the year on educational programming. We are reorganizing the Certified County Officials Program with the University of Illinois Extension and getting it reestablished. We have our human resources training, which I'll talk about a little later in connection with some of the legislative proposals introduced. We have our legal seminars as well. And then we also have our purchasing programs, such as the John Deere purchasing program. We have the grant finder licenses that our members receive. And probably biggest of all is that we have the Counties of Illinois Risk Management, the county insurance cooperative that we operate, which is a county-owned insurance program similar to that run by the municipalities and townships across the state. So that gives you a little example of the broadness of our association just beyond the lobbying. I know you've invited us here today to talk about the legislative process, so I'll just go right into that, and then I'm going to turn it over to Taylor to go through some of the summary that you've received in our report. As you all know, the Illinois General Assembly runs on a 2-year cycle. So the first year that we're in right now, usually we see an average of about 6,000 bills introduced. Usually in the second year, it's a little lighter. You might be 3,000 to 4,000 bills, but that's still a lot. And in comparison to other states around us, we don't have a limitation on bills. So if you take a look at that, we've averaged probably 1 in 6 bills impacts local government. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's county government. It could be township, municipalities, special districts. But again, about 1 in 6 of those bills impacts local government. So when those bills are introduced at the beginning of session, there's a lot to follow. And there's a lot to see what dwindles out and eventually makes its way to the Senate and House floor for further consideration. I think what we've seen recently too, that has been a change over the course of the past maybe 8 to 10 years. We've seen a lot of changes with respect to veto session, which is held in the fall, which is usually 6 days, maybe this year it's starting in October. And then the lame duck session, what we saw earlier this year. Oftentimes, those are the most difficult sessions to monitor. And the reason being, just like we saw in January, you get amendments filed to bills very quickly, you get movement very quickly, fast-paced actions on the floor, things that come through that may have been held and quickly advance. And we see that a lot where some of the more controversial issues now are proposed during veto session or lame duck session. And we saw that earlier this year. Probably the one impacting counties the most was the change to the siting and authority over wind and solar projects. And that happened during lame duck session. So at the same time, you have to understand that when we work with those type of pieces of legislation, communication out to our counties sometimes is very expeditious, and we need reactions very quickly. So I'm, like I said, with you having a representative on our legislative committee with Michelle, she will be able to respond, and we also copy your chair as well on any of those things moving quickly that we may need some feedback on. So we stay in strong communications with your county during those quick moving type of sessions and bills advancing. The last thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit of how we kind of work the bill at the state level. We do have our legislative committee, they take actions. We have a legislative policy proposal form that we'll put out in the fall, and I'll discuss that at the end. But again, your involvement with that, we look at everything you put together. If your legislative committee begins to put forth a platform, we bring that to our committee, and our committee then would help advance or adopt your platform if that is what you request for us to do. So we will be happy to work with you on that at a later date. So with that, I'd just like to go ahead and highlight a couple things. I think you've all received the spring session summary that we put out a couple weeks ago. There's a lot in there.
We have it on the screen for if you want to refer to it.
Great. There's a lot in there. I mean, it's a lot broader, because what we like to do is make sure you understand there are a lot of bills that go through the General Assembly that are quiet. And they may not be the ones getting the attention in the newspapers on a daily basis, but yet, because county government is very broad in its nature of services, a lot of these bills do impact maybe one specific department, something that the county is connected to. But it may not just be our policy platform. So again, you can read this at your leisure, and similar to our counties at the Capitol reports we put out through session. At times, there are bills we want you as a governing body to be aware of, just because it may affect another branch of county government that may require a change or some change in the governing process at the county level. So with that, like I said, there's a lot in here and we won't be touching on all of that today, but kind of pulling out some of those things that were more of urgency right now for you to be aware of. I'll start with just one of them on page 12. I think it's on page 12 of your report, but it's the stipend bill. And you're going to see a change in this. As you know, the county officials receive stipends from the state. And the state agency brought this bill to us to say, we don't want to manage this anymore. We're gonna flow this money down to the counties, and you guys administer the stipends. We got together, with the county treasurers, because again, this was going to be money coming from the state that had always been paid out from the state and then just now being sent over to the counties. So we set up meetings with the sponsor of the bill, which was Representative Maura Hirschauer. And we came together with the state agency, the county treasurers. We worked on some agreed language, and this is what we came out. And it was a very workable bill, and they were very appreciative that we were able to do this, because this was something that we wanted to make sure was changed at the county level to make sure there was checks and balances when these stipends come into the county government. So you'll see that at the bottom there on House Bill 2539. This is going to change the process. The Department of Revenue is now going to remit each county the amount required for the additional compensation for the stipends. And then this is going to be deposited by your county treasurer, and your county treasurer is going to set up a dedicated fund for those stipends, so that when you guys as a county board receive your financial reports and everything else, this will be separated. This will be a separate fund that you can look at and see how these stipends are flowing from the Department of Revenue into the county. And then the county treasurer is going to have 10 business days after those funds are deposited into the county fund to issue the stipends. Nothing changed with respect to the stipends as part of the officials' base compensation. So just like always, the county is going to be responsible for the state and federal income tax reporting, withholding, et cetera. But we did want to make you as a county board aware that this change will be taking place in the state, in the county treasurer's office. The other bill I wanted to talk about, and there's about 6 of those before I turn it over there, is several issues changing employment laws. And we have these every year where we have different laws coming in with respect to the management employees, and this affects your human resources departments. This year we had about probably 6 bills that actually passed that are going to affect that type of working environment for your HR department. So on page 4 of the report, I don't know if you can get back to that. We're going to start with Senate Bill 214. It's right there in the middle. That's a disability benefits expansion. Now, this may not, in fact, affect counties as much, but I wanted you to be aware of it, that when an employee suffers an illness in the line of duty and is unable to, perform their duties, you have to continue to be paid by the public entity. Now, on the majority of circumstances, I believe that is currently the case for our public entities. But again, if they are on any type of leave, this is mainly affecting your law enforcement officers. So just be aware of that with your HR department, that bill has passed, and it was signed by the governor. So you have the Public Act down below that was put in place. On page 5, the very next page, we have another employee benefit up at the top, which is an extended bereavement bill. This was Senate Bill 2034. And this is going to create the Child Extended Bereavement Act. This is going to provide extended leave to employees who have lost a child to either suicide or homicide. It's allowing up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave. Now, this is going to be possibly, it's going to affect the businesses more again, but we want to make sure that your HR department is aware of this, that this is something that is impactful to the local government as well. It sets out how the leave may be taken. So this may be a change as well regarding your employees if this were to be a situation in the future, if this is signed into law. And we do not anticipate that any of these will not be signed by the governor at this point. Going on to the next page, page 6. You'll see at the top, there is Senate Bill 1515. And this is some enhanced protection for immigrant employees. So again, this is just verifying their employment, making sure it's lawfully authorized, and that it gives them some safety and rights and protections that you can't take an action against that employee if you don't have a match on Social Security, et cetera. That gives them time to make sure that is all verified, and it allows the employees to contact the federal and state agencies and to bring that back to your local government if that is the case. So it doesn't prohibit you from terminating employees, but like I said, if the errors aren't corrected, you still have that right to do that. But again, it gives the employee more time to come up with the information that's needed for the employment. So that's another enhancement that's probably going to be looked at within your HR department. Skipping ahead to the House bills on page 12. Okay, we have House Bill, it's 2493. Let me catch up with you here because I'm looking at something other. This has to do with unpaid leave, and you'll see it there. And an employee is going to be now granted, if this is signed into law, a total of not more than 2 weeks of unpaid leave for specified reasons relating to whether it be a family member or household member who is killed in a crime of violence. So again, this adds a little more leave benefits to an employee. Again, it's unpaid leave, but this again could impact some of your workforce if it occurs, again, with your HR department. So in the management of employees, it's important for all of your elected officials to follow that and the guidance that is set by law. So again, this is going to be a change if signed into law with respect to the unpaid leave an employee may take for a certain circumstance. So this is expanding that beyond a little bit again. Then on page 13. We have House Bill 3129, and that's the Equal Pay Act. So I don't know that this is necessarily something having to do more so with county governments, but it is going to affect your employers in the state. So it's good to know that if they have 15 or more employees, this pay scale and the benefits information for those positions have to be posted. And also, if you have job opportunities come up for current employees, they have to be posted. So in other words, if there may be a level of advancement that can be given to an existing employee, it's posted and otherwise made known for all opportunities for promotion to your current employees. So it's a simple change, but again, it's something that all the employers in Illinois, the larger employers, anyone, and even some of the smaller with 15 or more employers must adhere to if it becomes law. And lastly, on that, I want to look at House Bill 3733. It's on page 14. And it's workers' rights. And this is going to require employers to provide copies of personnel records to employees by mail or email upon request. So this is more or less just, as we are moving forward with technology, so are many of the laws in the state of Illinois, and this is one of those. So again, this is just something that will be important for your department heads to know with respect to being an employer. With that said, the only other thing I wanted to mention, and I'm going to turn it over to Taylor, and we've been getting a little bit of calls about on page 10, House Bill 1286. And that has to do with the equitable restrooms. Obviously, this has made some headlines and talked about, and we know it back in 2020 when a different law was passed, all the single occupancy public bathrooms in Illinois became gender neutral, and that has all taken place. So this bill is going to expand on that law somewhat with respect to specifically the multiple occupancy restrooms, going to a little more all gender multiple occupancy. Now, what we want to make sure that counties understand that this legislation is permissive. It is not a mandate. It is not similar to what we were dealing with in 2020. So, but again, it does come into play if you have the public buildings. And it could be, you know, to your advantage to move in this direction if that were to come to fruition, to make sure you have the accurate signage available for the all gender restrooms. And there are specifics for those that were bringing up concerns. We saw a lot of misreporting, we feel, on this. It is important to understand that there were safeguards put into this bill for privacy. So again, for those restrooms that are going to be designated for all genders, they are going to have specific signage. They are going to have stall dividers, things such as that. So again, those things will take place. I don't know which counties or city governments will move in that direction, but it is an option right now that if it comes to you, you want to do this. This is permissive. It's not a mandate. But again, just note that once you do that, you'll have to make sure that the bathroom is remodeled to that effect and you have the proper signage. So again, that could affect a lot of the public restrooms in the local government buildings. So with that, if there's not any questions, we will be doing an HR seminar later this year, as we do every year, on federal and state laws. So some of those bills I talked to you about with respect to employee benefits, we will have a seminar on those. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Taylor Anderson, and he can talk more about the state FY24 budget and some more of the significant bills impacting counties, which also include several prevailing wage expansion measures. So Taylor.
Thanks, Kelly. Good morning, everyone. Is my volume okay? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, you sound good.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for the invitation
Welcome,
to
Taylor.
present today. Sorry?
I just said welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the invitation to speak today. And I want to thank Representative Hansen for being there. It's always nice to have an engineer in the room. Thanks for participating. Before I jump into the bills, and I'll be brief, I just wanted to go over the budget this year. It's on the last page of the report that Kelly sent out. Essentially we're dealing with a projected, revenue or expenditure of about $50 billion. I think it's $50.4 billion all total. It's a slight decrease from what we saw last year's budget. Of particular importance to local governments and counties is a slight increase in the local government distributive fund. It's a small bump. It will be an additional
was that word,
85
please?
million.
What
Sorry?
fund?
The local
Distributive fund?
government distributive fund, so
Oh, yeah.
LGDF.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem. It will be a slight bump of about 85 million statewide. So, you're going to have to, that number is going to obviously, the additional you might receive will be dependent upon population of each local government. Additionally, on top of that extra money that was put in, we're anticipating on seeing a slight bump in the tax receipts of about $25 million or $27 million. So all total, we'll see an additional distribution from LGDF of about $112 million. So that's good news. We're happy to do that. For years, we've been fighting to push LGDF back to the 10% distribution that historically it's always been at. When they made the tax increase permanent They reduced LGDF to about 6%, and we're hovering around that number currently. We're about at 6.5% or so. When they added this additional money, what they did is they bumped up our percentage for personal income, but they did not bump it up for corporation income tax. So that's why the numbers is pretty small. Again, this is going to take us years and years to push that distributive percentage back up to 10%, but that's the ultimate goal. When LGDF was put into place in the 70s, the trade-off is local governments would receive 10% of the dollars the state takes in on income tax, and then local governments would give up their ability to institute local income tax. Prior to that, each local government could have their own income tax. And so that was the deal that was struck then, and we're trying to make sure we get back up to that point. I will also note that the Department of Revenue has sent out a letter earlier this year that stated there was some miscalculations done, and they're going to have to true up the numbers between the local government distributive fund and the corporate personal property replacement tax. So each local government and county specifically receive what is commonly referred to as PPRT, and that's personal property replacement tax. Those dollars fluctuate quite a bit, but normally counties receive somewhere, in the neighborhood of about $500,000 or so, depending on their size and depending on the formula that the Department of Revenue uses. So I'm not sure off the top of my head how much money Kane County receives from the personal property replacement tax, but what the Department of Revenue is saying is that they're because of the miscalculation, and they're going to true up these numbers, there's going to probably be a slight bump in your LGDF distribution that Kane County receives, but there's probably going to be a reduction in the personal property replacement tax dollars that you receive. They haven't done the math on that yet, and they're hoping to get that all figured out by August. So you should be receiving from the Department of Revenue what they're anticipating sending to Kane County. So keep an eye out on that. One of the things we're pushing the Department of Revenue to do is to make sure they get those figures out to local governments and the counties early enough so that when you're budgeting, you know the amount of money you're going to be receiving from the Department of Revenue as you go through your budgetary process in the fall. However, the formula they use for PPRTs is quite complicated, and so it's going to take us a little while. But I please keep an eye out on those letters, because they're going to contain the numbers you're going to receive from the state. I'll pause there if there's any questions. I know that was quite a lot of information.
Does anybody have any questions up to this point? Ms. Bates, go ahead.
When did you say we will know these numbers by?
August.
The Department of Revenue says that it's their goal to send out a letter with the numbers by August.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Roth, go ahead.
He mentioned the attached, but we're not seeing that attachment. Was that? not-
Mr. Anderson, did you have an attachment, or is there somewhere we can?
No, just what Kelly sent out. She didn't include the letter that was sent out by the Department of Revenue. That should have been sent directly, probably to either the clerk or the chairman.
Right.
That's the one I was asking about. Is all.
Okay, perfect.
So you did.
I didn't send it out.
I
No.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. I don't think we have any
Not
more
a problem.
questions right now.
I do.
Okay.
I
then we can-
apologize. Ms. Bates has a question for you.
So
Yes.
if the LGDF gets a bump up and the PPRT gets a bump down, are we going to be in the red or the black? Are we
Well,
getting a gain?
That's a great question. And I think it's going to be very dependent upon each individual locality.
We're a big
Some
county.
counties may end up a little bit better. Some counties may end up a little bit worse. I think what it really is going to be dependent upon is ultimately what that PPRT number ends up being.
Okay, thank you.
And we have
Yeah.
another question from Mr. Roth.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't catch if you had given the definitions. What is LBGF?
That's the local government distributive fund.
Local Government Distributive Fund. Okay, thank you.
Yes, and
We've been
what that
fighting-
is
We've been
again,
fighting for that for a very long time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we
Yes.
appreciate everybody on,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Thank you.
one day we'll get to 10. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson. Sorry about that.
no, these are all good questions. I just was going to reiterate that, again, that is a distributive fund. That's a share of the state's income tax collections, both from personal and corporate. We can go up to the top of the Senate bill page. I noticed when Kelly was speaking, my numbers are a little off. So for me, it's page 2 that starts the Senate bills.
You said page 2.
It's page 2.
Can we get page 2 up?
On the report, it's 4.
Oh, on this report, it's 4. Okay.
It's page 4. Okay, so I'm 2 off. Then I'll keep that in mind. As Kelly mentioned, this was the first year of a General Assembly. It's usually the heaviest year of the 2-year General Assembly. So we saw about 6,680 or so bills be introduced during the spring session. We'll probably see a little bit more during veto session. So, generally speaking, we stay around that 6,600 frame. That seems to be the trend over the last 3 or so General Assemblies. Of those 6,680 bills, 566 were passed and will be sent to the governor's office. Normally, we see quite let's say 10% of the bills that are actually passed by the General Assembly will usually be vetoed by the governor, although the Pritzker administration has not been the case. We've seen years go by where this governor hasn't vetoed any bills. We've seen, a year go by where he's only vetoed, 2, maybe 3 bills. So of those 566 bills that are passed, if his administration's trend holds true, we'll probably see the vast majority of those bills signed into law. So, there's going to be about 566 changes, new changes to law or potentially new laws this year, and we'll talk about them right now. I'm going to be very quick. I'm going to move through quickly. If there's questions, please stop me. I want to make sure we talk about those. The first bill is Senate Bill 74. This creates a property tax payment plan task force. And essentially, right now, this bill is only focused on Cook County. But a lot of times what we see is something will start in Cook County and then will be expanded out to the rest of the state in some form or fashion. So the intent of this measure is to prevent eligible tax delinquent owners who occupy their properties from being sold at an annual tax sale. And so the thought is to keep people who might be delinquent on their property tax in their home. Now, again, as I said, this is a task force solely focused on Cook County, but should a bill like this pass, for Cook County, we do anticipate it probably spreading. So we wanted to give folks a heads up, a warning that something like this, could be taking place. There's been a lot of issues regarding property taxes and delinquent taxpayers, and so and also how these auction homes have been done. So wanted to just give you guys a heads up that this idea is out there and could potentially expand to the rest of the state at some point. We can scroll down to the next page, and we'll look at Senate Bill 895. This was a huge bill. We spent a lot of time this General Assembly and the previous year dealing with this issue. It started because there was a municipality in a specific county that was essentially acting as a contractor. And let me explain what I mean by that. It's our understanding that this municipality was going to other units of local government and saying, hey, we'll enter into an intergovernmental agreement with you and we'll perform highway road construction work for you. And they were specifically targeting smaller communities that did not have their own public works departments. And now I think we're all supportive of IGAs and how that increases local government efficiencies. But in this case, we certainly don't want folks going out and acting as contractors and soliciting business. So as the bill was originally introduced this year, it sought to force prevailing wage rates on all intergovernmental agreements. So if you have an intergovernmental agreement with your township, if you have an intergovernmental agreement with a municipality, it would force you to pay prevailing wage for any of that work being done, which is obviously would be quite burdensome. Because you'd have to increase most likely the pay for your employees or the employees of the township to come do work on a county road, et cetera, et cetera. So what we ended up with was a compromise bill. And what this does is it kind of puts some guardrails up on how intergovernmental agreements can be used. So basically, this bill now says that a county can enter into intergovernmental agreements with units of local government within the county. What they can't do is go over to another county or go to a municipality or township in another county and enter into an intergovernmental agreement and provide services there. We think that's a fair compromise. This does allow for two counties to jointly perform work if there's an intergovernmental agreement, and there are carve-outs, for emergency responses and relief being provided following a disaster. So we think this kind of hopefully provides the necessary guardrails so we don't have abuses of intergovernmental agreements, but still allow for intergovernmental agreements to be in place and for the work to be done to really increase efficiency for units of local government. So we're very happy with that compromise. There was a couple more bills I was going to mention on the Senate bill side, but in the interest of time, I'm going to skip down to House bills. We can go down to page, I think it would be 13 on your list. And we're going to be looking at the first bill is House Bill 2845. It's right up there on the left side of the top of the page. And we're going to be talking about three bills. I'll talk about them kind of collectively first, and we'll talk about them individually in just a second. So the three bills are House Bill 2845, House Bill 3370, and House Bill 3792. Kelly mentioned that there were some prevailing wage changes, and these are the three bills that are expansion to how prevailing wage operates in the state. The first bill, and depending on the local government, some of these bills might impact them more depending on the county. Some of these bills might not impact them very much. But one of the things Kelly and I try to do is keep in mind the precedent that these types of bills set. We saw one prevailing wage bill expansion introduced last year. We saw 4 prevailing wage expansion bills introduced this year. We're likely to see at least 3 or 4 or potentially 5 or more in preceding years as, there looks to be more expansion induced into the prevailing wage. So that's kind of why these bills are so important for us to know about and to weigh in on. So as I said, first is House Bill 2845. This deals with the hauling of biosolids, and biosolids in this instance is with regards to the residue or the leftover material during water treatment. Not all counties have water treatment facilities. Some counties have more than others. Some counties don't have any. But the reason why this bill is so important is because this introduces the idea that prevailing wage rates are no longer just site specific. And before, prevailing wage was always tied to the site and who was doing the work. Now we're dealing with hauling. So this is removing the biosolids from the prevailing wage rate site and taking it off site to another location. This is very important because this introduces a wide expansion to prevailing wage. Now, one of the concerns that I have is that we're going to start seeing more bills dealing with hauling or transportation, either away from a site. So think about if there's, you have a prevailing wage project, and now the hauling of debris away from that project could be included. Or what about if you're doing some road work in your building? There could be, I think we're going to see bills now where the transportation of materials to a site could now fall within prevailing wage. And so this is going to impact the cost of doing jobs, the cost of doing works, and ultimately it's going to lower the amount of projects a county is going to be able to do as those costs of individual projects rise. So again, I don't know specifically if this bill would impact Kane County if you guys do water treatment, but certainly anywhere you're going to buy water from, we're going to probably see costs rise on that because hauling away, those costs are going to rise. And we're more concerned about what this means moving forward in the future for the expansion of prevailing wage. The next bill in the same realm is House Bill 3370. Excuse me. Again, this is another expansion of prevailing wage. I believe it's on the right side on the same page, and this expands prevailing wage to power washing projects. And what this bill does is it says any power washing, whether it's just with water or whether there's a solvent involved, it now is a prevailing wage project. So you can imagine if you're going to have a small project, and part of that is going to require wiping down a building to have it repainted. That needs to be prevailing wage. Window washing, if they use a power washer to wash windows, prevailing wage. If you're doing graffiti removal, prevailing wage. As long as they use a power washer, this now requires prevailing wage to be paid. You can think of simple things like cleaning sidewalks, et cetera, all the way to bigger, larger projects as well. But again, these individual pieces that normally wouldn't be prevailing wage are now we're going to start seeing bills trying to expand those jobs into prevailing wage. So that's one that certainly we think is going to have a cost on units of local government. And then the last prevailing wage bill I wanted to talk about is House Bill 3792. And again, these aren't all of the bills, but they are the three that we felt expanded prevailing wage the most. And I apologize, this is on the last page right in the center. This expands prevailing wage to include all construction projects involving fixtures or permanent attachments to light poles that are owned by the public body. So if you're going through and you're changing out, lights on light poles that you owned, maybe you're updating them to LED lights you would need to pay prevailing wage. If you're going to do some work and affix, maybe you've decided that this particular street now on the poles you own, you'd like to hang some flags or some banner, some seasonal flags or seasonal banners. And so you want to attach poles to hang those banners. You're going to have to pay prevailing wage, to make those permanent fixtures onto those poles. So again, it's just these, these kind of very niche type projects are now going to be prevailing wage, which obviously is going to impact, the financial health of local governments as they make determinations about, how they'd like to spend their money. And so that's one of the reasons why we really wanted to make sure that we highlighted those prevailing wage bills for you all. The last bill I'll speak about is House Bill 3902. This bill was recently signed into law by the governor. It's now Public Act 103-0101. And this is quite a change in law for Illinois, and kind of catching Illinois up to new technology. This allows law enforcement officers to use drones to monitor special events, parades, festivals, fly over beaches, and to identify public safety issues. Now, there's a whole host of guardrails that have been included in this bill, like how long the data gathered from these events can be held, what type of criminal activity that's captured on there can be used in court, and whether or not these can be used, say a parade versus a protest. But again, the thought behind this, or I should say the driving motivation behind this was, the tragic event that took place in Highland Park during the July 4th parade. And so the idea being behind this is if law enforcement feels, hey, there's a parade or some type of festival, there's going to be a lot of people densely, packed together. And boy, it would sure be helpful if we were able to fly a drone, over buildings to see if there's anyone on the roof or any suspicious activity. This could prevent some of the tragedies that we've been seeing here in Illinois and also nationwide. And so that bill was signed into law, I believe last week or the week before, very recently, and it's going to be quite a sea change in how law enforcement utilizes drones. So you might start seeing requests, from the sheriff's department to either buy more drones or increase training, for deputies in how to use drones, how to operate drones. We've obviously, a couple years ago, we saw the Safety Act pass and body cameras and the cost embedded with not only buying and purchasing the body cameras, but also storing the information, the videos from body cameras. Well, this is also probably going to have a cost with storage as well, because, let's say there's a big parade and you might have, 3 drones flying around. Well, if the parade lasts 3 to 4 hours and you've got 3 drones, you got to start multiplying the data, right? It's not just 3 hours of footage. It's going to be 3 times the number of drones or however long the event is. So those are some of the things that we need to make sure we're starting to think about moving forward as this technology becomes more readily available and as it's more easily or allowed to be utilized in statute. So sorry, I know I went a little over there, but I wanted to make sure we touched base on some of these important issues, and I'll pause if there's any questions or comments.
I personally, this is Guns here. I just want to thank you for the overview. I know we get, this was shared with all of our committee members. And sometimes we read them, but I greatly appreciate you guys being here to speak on them because we have a little bit more information when we hear them out loud. So I want to thank you for that. I did want to ask a question about if you could speak on House Bill 3751 at all.
You said, I'm sorry, House Bill 3751?
Correct, 3751.
Yeah, and that, you're talking about the bill that would allow DACA to apply for law enforcement.
Yes, correct. I know our representative probably will speak on that as well.
Sure. So my understanding of this bill is, and again, it says non-citizens can become law enforcement officers in Illinois if they're authorized by federal law to work in the country, or if action on their immigration status has been deferred under the federal DACA process. This is really aimed at DACA recipients or dreamers. The argument has been made, are we allowing immigrants to have, rights over citizens that they shouldn't? On the other hand, the argument has been made, we allow for DACA recipients to serve in our military. And so if they're, willing to make the ultimate sacrifice to protect our flag and our country, certainly it's not too far of a stretch to allow them to serve in other capacities as well. I would just say that, there's probably merit to both arguments. This is obviously a nuanced and very complicated issue. Illinois is not the only state to do this, however. I believe there's just under a handful of other states that also have similar laws on the books. So, we're not a trailblazer in that sense, and this isn't the only law like this in the country.
Very good. Thank you for speaking on it. I know that's something I was keeping close track of because, as you stated, if they can die for our country, they certainly ought to be able to work for a fire department or a police department. So I think it's a great thing. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody on the committee have any questions? All right. Well, do you guys have anything else you want to share with us?
I wanted to add, I'm sorry, I just wanted to add one thing that I forgot when we were talking about the budget. That's a very important thing. The county engineers, and we joined them in their efforts, pushed to increase the township bridge program. These are dollars that go to fix maintenance and do deferred maintenance and replace bridges all across the state of Illinois. We have some of the highest number of bridges in the country. We also, unfortunately, have some of the highest number of derelict bridges in the country as well. Traditionally, that program has only been $15 million, and it's been $15 million since, I believe, the early 80s or late 70s. And so we got a huge increase from $15 million to $60 million. Each county throughout the state receives some of those dollars. And so Kane County will be receiving more money to help you with your bridges and the maintenance of those bridges. So I just wanted to make sure I applauded the county engineers for leading the charge on this. And it's more money to help, with fixing very expensive bridges across the state.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Bates, go ahead.
So does that money go to the townships or the
You
counties?
could your microphone.
Does the money go to the township or the counties? Townships or counties?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's called the Township Bridge Program, but counties do receive a share of it. I'm not sure off the top of my head how much money Kane County receives. It's based upon the number of bridges each county has.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else have any more questions for Mr. Anderson? All right. Representative Hansen has a question for you.
Oh, boy.
Indulge him.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I better state my name. I'm Matt Hansen. I'm from Montgomery, and I'm the representative from the 83rd District and an alumnus here from the Kane County Board. Thanks for your work in Springfield. I appreciate the overview. I see a few bills that actually have my name at the top. as part of your summary. So that's pretty neat. And a couple of those bills were brought to me by our leadership here in the county. So that's great. But there is one bill that you left out that everyone is giving me hugs and high fives about. Okay, when anyone hears about it. And I know that this county is not in the business of building buildings, but we have townships, we have schools, we have cities and villages that do occasionally build something. But Senate Bill 1570 is one of those bills that everyone says, what took you so long? That benefits everyone. So if anyone knows how to look up bills on the ILGA site, that simply streamlines the design build process for projects that are less than $12 million. And that's a lot of building. That is a lot of school. That is a lot of facilities that it's a big ask of our constituents and our taxpayers to say, we need this, or we're going to do this. But if you can guarantee that it's going to be done faster and for less money, that's good government. And that model was taken from kind of time-tested programs, whether if you're home rule, not home rule, and also what we've witnessed with the new tollway board and their implementation of this program there. So if it's working fine, let's take it a step further and apply it to buildings. So you can imagine we had responsible planning and a financially sound plan when we built the multi-use facility here in Kane County. Can you imagine if we would have been able to shave 10% of that cost off or get that done a little bit faster simply because you combine phase 1 and phase 2? So this is absolutely something that anyone, no matter where you are in this county or in the state, can take back to your local units of government and your schools. As Senate Bill 1570 came over to the House, we added school districts into that too. So whether if you're building, I'll use a real-time example, Caneland is looking to pass a referendum for a new high school. Okay, should that referendum pass and they build it, it can be done a lot faster and cheaper now. So there's one you forgot.
But they did a great job.
The representative's correct. I've heard nothing but positive things about that bill. We are very happy that it passed. The only thing I would say that I've heard anyone say negative about it is, why is it capped at 12 million? Can we raise that? So, I think this is a great positive effort, and certainly combining phase 1 and phase 2, get things done faster and with one person, so less mistakes, less change orders, makes a lot of sense.
And for some of the bills you talked about, there were a lot of Kane County representatives and senators on the bills. And certainly others can take credit for championing some of the bills that we talked about. But two of the ones you talked about in particular, 3751 and 3902, those were brought forth and fought for by Barbara Hernandez. And 3902 regarding the drones, that's technology that we use already, right? Okay, in my railroad life, if there's a derailment, there's an avalanche, the washouts, you want to send people and they're blind? Of course you don't. So if you can use technology to protect the people that do the work, it makes sense. Firefighters already use that. If there's a structure fire or an incident that they need to figure out where should we be, what equipment do we need, we do it already. So this protects our law enforcement and the people in large congregate gatherings. It's a common sense bill that I agree with what's been said here. There are guardrails so that information is used for the right reasons, but absolutely protects our law enforcement, absolutely protects people in crowds. And to the bridges, I believe I'm the only Democrat on that bill. That the appropriations bill is House Bill 2781 that took the township bridges from 15 to 60 million. And if you're trying to find it in the budget, because lots of things get proposed and you're wondering, did it make it into the budget? Of the 3425 page budget, that line item is on page 1161, section 20. So it's not just hearsay, but that appropriations bill became a real thing in the budget on page 1161.
Wonderful. And, as it comes here, this is government working right now. We appreciate our partners at the IACBM, and this is how things get done. I'm glad we had that back and forth. Mr. Roth, go ahead.
Roth here. I have one question, Matt. The one about is it new construction only or modification?
No, Mr. Roth, if you don't mind.
Okay, sorry.
Can we finish up with?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can do it offline.
No. I would just like our presenters to continue first, and then we can have that
Well,
representative.
it was a question to him, Matt.
So, I just wanted to grant them the time. So, Mr. Anderson or Miss Murray, do you have anything else?
No, Chair Gomes, I just thank you all again for allowing us and inviting us to this meeting today, and for working with us on the legislative agendas in Springfield. Like I said, it's very important. I'm very encouraged by the committee you have working here today, and Taylor and I will stay in constant contact with you as a committee since you represent Kane County on our legislative committee. And I would like to just reiterate, we will be sending the legislative proposal form out for the 2024 policy platform. Usually it goes out about August or September. And we work, for example, Lake County adopts their legislative platform. Chair Hart works with us. They are on our legislative committee. We look at their platform, we bring it to our committee, and we vote on it to help support their initiatives. And that's how our committee works individually with those counties that have legislative committees. So if you guys put a platform together, then, Chair Gums, I'm assuming you will bring that to us as a committee on a statewide platform, and we can review it and hopefully adopt and put support behind your proposals as well in the future. So we will be here to work for you. We work for you. We are the worker bees. We say that, and we have a good representation at the state capitol, and we really appreciate also your next speaker having a local government background. That is such a plus for us over there. So we look forward to working with him as well.
Very good. You can count on that platform. I know we're going to be doing that shortly. So,
wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys both attending. Taylor, do you have anything else?
No, I think Kelly covered it excellently. Thanks again so much, for inviting us to present. Look forward to more partnership with you all, and look forward to seeing you, Representative Hansen, back in Springfield.
Very good. He says he's waving. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
So if Representative Hansen, if you would like to come up and speak about anything else, you're welcome to give us a little update. He popped in our radar late, so we got to capture them when we can get them. So we're glad to have you here, Representative. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, and hello again. And we're back. And when I say we, that means your legislators that have been in Springfield. We broke camp at the end of May, and we're back in district now. And for every meeting we attend, every event we attend, we're frankly, in someone else's eyes, shorting them by not attending. So this is a clear slot in my schedule, and I saw that the legislative was having a review of what happened in Springfield, and it is just an overview. There are so many good things that we did legislatively and within the budget that didn't get glossed over, but maybe they got overlooked, or when we come back and we wanted to build LGDF funding back to 10%, and that was going to be a real stretch, but we were aiming for 8. I'm on record in bills filed and bills supported that 8 would have been a great win. So to get to 6.436 or whatever it is, that's an increase that helps. There's so many other good programs that are in the budget that our county and the 83rd House District and our region can take advantage of in lieu of the actual LGDF increase. But now with that increase, when you begin the difficult process of budgeting, you can use that number in there and frankly take that to the bank as you have been in the past based on the revenues that you see coming into the county. That'll help budgeting, is knowing that increase is going to be there. There were a lot of significant bills in that summary that kind of got left out in terms of the discussion. And there were some that absolutely got brought to me and to your legislators that did go through. The bill regarding the transfer of prisoners, that sounds like an ugly thing, back to any county that has a reentry program, was an initiative brought to me by our Sheriff Ron Hain. And it applies the entire state, but not many counties have what we have here in Kane County, where we help people before they exit jail, before they exit corrections. And so what does 3755 actually do? It says that if within a year of your completion of essentially your jail time, you can be returned to the county that you reside in if that sheriff agrees to having you return to that county and they have a reentry program. So the example I'll use is, let's say someone from Kane County is serving time in Knox County. There's a correctional facility there in Galesburg. Well, if our sheriff and his team here decide that the person that resides in Kane County who's incarcerated in Galesburg should come home and enter the reentry program, that can be done. That's helping people that we call our neighbors that are residents here in Kane County. in particular. Rather than saying, here's your stuff back, here's your gate money, there's the Amtrak station, good luck to you. Okay, to be able to come back and get the kind of treatment and the help that you may need back home. So when you leave home, it's a great thing.
Who initiates?
Ms. Stratton,
Sorry,
go ahead.
this is Ms. Stratton. Who initiates that program? That policy of, I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful idea, but does the sheriff in the residing community start it or the home community? Do you know which it is?
I believe it could go either way.
Okay,
And when it comes to that kind of record keeping, I don't know who keeps track of who is
Yeah,
being
that's what I
incarcerated
was
where.
wondering.
So that's a good question. I know it could be initiated if either direction, but I don't know who stores that data, who has that information at our county's level.
Madam Chair, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. It would make sense to me, and would be the sheriff. The correctional facility would be contacting the sheriff to let them know that that time is over, maybe through the courts.
It would be
and
through the
time
courts.
service,
Yeah.
And then it would go down to the sheriff. My question is, I also support this opportunity, but there comes that with a cost. Is there going to be any money shared by the state to help support this program?
good question.
I'm confused. What program?
Oh, for the reentry program, because
We already have a reentry program.
oh, no, I understand that, but there is a need for housing for these individuals.
Okay.
We have, unless
That's
something has
coming out of
changed.
local money. I'm asking if there's any state funds that will follow that individual to help support the transition.
Some of the reentry program is already supported by the state, but that's already baked into the sheriff's budget right now.
I think she's referring to the transfer, the one-year transfer. That's going to be absorbed by the sheriff.
It is
Yeah,
gonna be
so
absorbed.
the transfer of someone who's in a correctional facility for any reason is already built into that. I mean, that's part of their budget.
And the
And
housing.
again, this is subject to the approval of the sheriff that has a reentry program.
I think perhaps that's something we can take a look at and see what the.
We asked the sheriff
resources
at one
are.
of our JPS meetings and Sheriff Haynes said it would be something that the county would be responsible for. We wouldn't be getting payment like we would when we get a transfer from DuPage, and DuPage County pays us the $78 a day. This is something that the county, because these are county residents, the county would be the one paying for them for the 1 year period.
All right, okay.
And it could be up to a year. They could
Right.
return within 6 months or a month of when they've completed their sentencing. It's with the phrase, it's within a year.
And
Yes,
for the
within.
record, that was Molina, or
Pardon me.
I just didn't know if you said that. Maybe you did. Sorry.
I think that for me, I'd like to know a little bit more about this program, and the worthiness of it. I'm not questioning the worthiness of it, but how we can help support it appropriately.
Another bill that was brought to me by, before we move on from that one, and I know people do have a full schedule today, so I won't keep everyone tied up with all things that pertain to just King County or the bills that we sponsored, but anything else on the 3755. House Bill 3819, which is also in here, doesn't quite grasp, I think, the significance of it. That's deflection programming. In the legislation passed last year, there was some language that basically said the only people that could initiate a deflection program or deflection programming had to be law enforcement. And even though I don't think the summary in here really grasps that the energy behind what State Attorney Mosser and her team brought to me was, it frankly allows other units of government, it could be the health department, it could be the State Attorney's office to administer and run a deflection program. And it absolutely encourages and kind of points people in the right direction that have a deflection program or want to initiate one as to how to pursue grant funding. How do you fund these things? So is it a language cleanup? Yes, but it also expands a possibility for other agencies, other units of government that want to have deflection programming. That doesn't have to be your responders. It's not to be your police officers, your sheriffs. It could be someone else that administers that program, not necessarily the police. They absolutely still have the right and the ability to recommend someone for a program, but it doesn't have to be internally run or funded.
And in our Gums here in our previous meeting, we were talking and praising Mr. Isaacson. So that's good information for the chair of public health.
Yeah.
Is this a, Madam Chair, Bates, please?
Yeah.
Is this a,
Microphone, please.
is this an arrest diversion program?
That's one way, you can certainly label it as such. Deflection programming, pre-arrest diversion. Sure.
Thank you.
There's other good, and the last thing I'll leave you with is it's really hard. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse to have this committee when you're not actually there every single day. Okay, when I say there, I mean Springfield or in Washington. It's really hard to keep tabs on legislation when things are getting modified. And there's people standing around waiting. What are we waiting for? Waiting for a posting, a 10 word change in an amendment that has to be posted for an hour. That by the time you can see it and react to it from somewhere outside of Springfield, the change is already made. So that's why you entrust your lobbyists, you entrust your electeds to keep tabs on those things. And much like here, a lot of times on exec day or the full board day, things look really easy. The reality is a lot of hard work got put into from staff, intel, from all your department heads at the committee level before it got to that moment. Your budget is 3,425 pages long. It's Senate Bill 250, Senate Amendment number 3. And that's a lot of light reading for you. But if you know how to do searches, you'll see there's a lot of neat stuff in there that benefit all of us. And we talked about deflection programming. One of the small things that's in there, but it's not small to them, is an additional $500,000 grant to the Lighthouse Foundation that does some of the programming there in the sheriff's office. There's lots of things that I think if this was a full house today, anyone can take home and tell the people in their respective districts that we did that in Springfield on behalf of all of us. And the last thing I'll leave you with before any questions is I feel like we had a very successful session, both in the legislative frontier and in the budget. And if I had not had time here and wearing my preserve commissioner hat, I wouldn't have had the same kind of voice, the same kind of confidence in some of the things I voted on. Understanding that, and you feel this too, okay? You go home and you have village trustees and aldermen, and you have school boards and not just your preserve hat, you got park districts that once you've been in this environment, you understand things way better than some of our colleagues down there, and the experience here is invaluable. And so it doesn't surprise me when Barbara Hernandez is now in leadership. It doesn't surprise me that Christina Castro is now in leadership. We're very blessed to have leaders, both Holmes and Castro, in the Senate. We already have a leader from right around here in the House, and Barbara Hernandez, and they all came from, and Stephanie Kifowit, Representative Kifowit, served on City Council in Aurora. Having that local government flavor, that local government seasoning before you get down there to figure out how all this stuff works does matter. And whether it be the only Democrat to support an increase from $15 to $60 million for township bridges, I'll own it, because I realize how expensive it is once you spend time on with KDOT here and you spend time on transportation infrastructure in Springfield. Like, it's really expensive to build a bridge. Okay. So $60 million statewide is nothing, but to go from 15 to 60 is a big deal. And I'm going the partisan thing. I'm the only Democrat on the bill.
Mr. Rock has a question for you.
Yeah. When you were talking about Senate Bill 1570 about the construction, is that new construction only or modification or revisions?
It can be mods. It's
Okay.
design builds. So if you were doing a build out, if you were doing a major rehab.
Well, I know the St. Charles School District is looking to modify a lot.
And so in that, and I brought this along, and I'll leave whenever I need to leave and whenever you want me to go. But so there was a summary of everything that we saw today. I actually brought along what we call a bill analysis of 1570 because there wasn't in the summary presented today. And in the House, a floor amendment we added included school districts into that. So wait a second. Sometimes you lose the overall flavor and the impact of the bill by asking for too much.
Right.
But it was when all the mayors go racing to get their name on the top of the bill, and I beat them to it because I saw it. I saw what's coming, okay, by doing my homework.
Right.
We added schools and school districts into that bill. But the way it reads, the way I understand it is that it's for projects. It doesn't have to be necessarily new construction.
Thank you.
But anything else? And thank you again.
Any more
Bates,
questions?
please.
Ms. Bates?
Do you know why, Mr. Hanson, Representative Hanson, you were the only Democrat supporting that bill? That seems like a good bill.
Well, because it was an
Why were you
appropriation.
so lonely?
It was an appropriations bill, so you don't actually vote on those. Sometimes there's more ceremonial. You, in the appropriations process, there's actually 5 appropriations committees. And you made something like this, you need to go and knock on someone's door or talk to them in that appropriations committee saying, this is important to me, to us. And so very rarely would you actually vote on appropriations bill. So House Bill 2781, that was basically getting on a record saying we support 15 to 60 million for this project, but it still has to be approved by appropriations committees and then the budgeteers, House, Senate, and then the governor, when it comes out, is Senate Bill 250. So it wasn't, no one had to vote on it, and people, I think most places support it. But I'm happy to be on the
Thank
record.
you.
Yeah.
Do we have any, Mr. Co-Chair Linder, go ahead.
Matt, I've been kind of quiet here. I'm just very happy that you're here, and I'd like for you to stay in touch. Call any one of us if there's something going on that you think we need to email one of your colleagues to encourage them to get on board with something. And if you have some questions for us, don't hesitate. We're all interested in having a better county and a better state. And I know you're there too. So I'm happy that we're able to partner with you, and it's good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be back. And here's my responses back at you. You know, stay in touch with me and let me know what's going on, because it's a big county and very diverse.
Ms. Strathman.
I'd just like to say to you, I'm glad you're there and I'm glad you were here and I'm glad you're here today. So that covers it all.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you. I appreciate you. All right. We're going to try and wrap the rest of this up. I know we've been going a little bit longer than normal. In your packet, there was a letter of support for Ethan's Law. You should have all been able to read that. I'm going to ask for consent from this committee so I can send this letter out to our legislative.
We consent.
Any objectors on this? I think it was pretty clear. I know is somebody online?
No objection from Silver.
Oh, okay. So it was tooled in a way that actually recognizes everybody involved. So we're trying to get something done, and I think the letter reflects sensibly. So I thank you for your consent. Additionally, we'll be doing a resolution to get it before the board. Our collar counties have also done resolutions to support this. Ethan's bill is, in short, if you have little children or somebody with a mental health illness, you must put a lock on your gun. We're not gonna, it doesn't say we're gonna go door to door and make sure that you've got that lock on, but God forbid your 3-year-old gets a hold of that gun and shoots your 2-year-old, then we have repercussions. And we all know that those things happen. Responsible gun ownership is important to everybody, I think. So I don't think this is a big ask, but anybody have any comments on this? Mr.
I just want to concur. Every time we hear a news report of a mass shooting where somebody got a gun that was not locked up, they shouldn't have access to, and these accidents with kids, the kids showing up in class with a gun and shooting a teacher. I mean, these things are insane, and there needs to be a responsible party. There is a responsibility in owning a gun, just like there's a responsibility in owning a car. You've got something there that can hurt other people, and you need to be responsible. So I think that's a good bill.
Very good. And also working with the health department. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Strathman.
I was just gonna
You were
say-
just probably going to say something about this.
Yeah, my apologies. This morning, we were going to bring it up for discussion this morning and we got sidetracked. But we certainly support Ethan's Law. What is the committee flow? Is this from here to
So I believe this will go from
executive, or does it have
here
go
to exec and then to county
board?
boards.
Okay, so it does not have to go through each committee?
No, there's no.
Okay.
Yeah. there's-
Well, know that the Public Health Board committee
Yes.
does support this.
But you and I had spoke, Scumps again, we had spoke about this because our health department also has a program with the safety locks as
Yeah.
well as our sheriff's department. So it's all kind of mixed together. So we have Chair Molina here and Chair Strathman, and I think it's a great thing. Pretty much, I think everybody is agreement on it. So well done.
Madam Chair,
Good job, guys.
Energy and Environmental supports this. Bill.
Well, I love that. I love that. It's good for the environment
It
to
is good
have
for the
little
environment.
humans running around safely.
Yes.
Okay, so that is, what I have on that. And under old business, I do want to apologize to Mr. Iqbal. He had brought up a resolution in reference to the broadband. I know some of you are aware of that legislative issue. However, we didn't get it on here on time. And additionally, I will add that there's more work to be done on this, and we're waiting for our lobbyist, as was pointed out. This is one of our priorities. So we're going to get our lobbyist onboarded as soon as I get that signed contract. And then he'll be working on this. So I did want to apologize to Mr. Iqbal for that. So
Madam Chair, just a point of clarification. Is that the one that Roger had brought forward about being able to resell?
yes, correct. So
Okay.
resell or lease our
Right, right,
broadband.
right.
And then additionally, just so you're aware of that, the state's attorney did send it out to the Attorney General's office. Obviously, those take a long time to get responses back, and I do have a call into them, but I don't have a response yet either. So, because there is some confusion amongst other counties, I guess, and ours as well. So some counties are doing it, some counties are not. So we want to make sure we get that ruling.
Yeah, I'm not on the committee, but I think that needs to be a high priority because
Yes.
in that admin meeting, Roger mentioned he's at risk losing $500,000. He told me offline, he's already lost another $500,000 of people that have approached him that he had to say no.
Yes. So we'll be talking to our legislators
Okay,
about
thank you.
that issue. So I don't have anything else that I can.
Do you have a accurate status on the signing of the contract with the lobbyist?
Well, I just walked into purchasing. Thank you for asking that question. I just walked into purchasing and they weren't in the office. No, I do not have a signed contract yet. As you know, we've been working on this diligently. It's ready for signature. It's been put through our,
I have an extra pen. If
well, all right, I'll see you after the meeting. Anybody else have any questions about anything at all? No questions? Co-chair comments.
I'm glad to see good attendance here today. I think we need to start concentrating on something that they talked about today, and that was a legislative platform. And I think we need to sort of informally start talking with all of our department heads about making sure that we know what's on their radar so that it's on ours. So when we get the lobbyist on board, we'll already know certainly this the fiber bill is an important one to us, but there are others too. And the county's been in the habit of departments going out and sort of finding their own way on these bills. We don't want to inhibit that at all, but I think, certainly we wouldn't want somebody asking our lobbyist about a bill we're pushing and have our lobbyist say, well, I don't know, I haven't heard about it. So we do need to start getting some of that stuff fed in here.
No more silos.
Yes, and you
Yeah.
know,
And then again, we're not trying to take anything away from any of the departments. They certainly can do what they do, but we need to be a partner in that and be helping them. And quite honestly, if we're paying a lobbyist, we should be taking some work off their backs if our lobbyists can work for them.
very good. All right. Anybody else have anything? Nope. We have no need for executive session, and I will take a motion for
To adjourn. Bates.
Bates motions to adjourn. And can I get,
Craftsman seconds?
all right, Strathman seconds, all in favor?
I
Much for attending. I appreciate our partners